All right, so in our last class, we had talked about our adrenal gland, right? I had told you about how the hormone adrenaline does its job and how the hormone adrenaline uh, is going to affect your heart rate. It is going to affect your, the arterioles in your skin, your digestive system, liver, everything. I had given you a whole table and I told you memorize that table. That table is very, very important, right? Then we have, so what do we have to take a look at today? Today we have to go ahead and we have to talk about our insulin. Okay. So when we talk about our insulin, let's discuss how our body actually controls our glucose level using insulin. Our pancreas, one portion of the pancreas is that it produces the digestive enzymes, which I've already taught you about previously, right? Another portion of it is that it also produces hormones. Okay, those hormones are insulin and glucagon. Okay, both insulin and glucagon have a role in regulating or controlling the blood glucose in our body, right? Both of them are involved in regulating the blood glucose level. So when we talk about our insulin and glucagon, how do they do the job that they actually need to do? The way they do the job is this, that first of all, both of these hormones are secreted from the pancreas. Okay, now the way they actually work is like this. I'm going to make a diagram so it's easy for you to understand. Let's say that a person has just eaten food. Okay, if you have just eaten food, what is going to happen? The glucose in the blood will increase. Now, when the glucose in your blood is going to increase, your body is going to obviously notice it instantly, right? They're going to be like, all right, the glucose in our body has increased. We need to try to bring it back to normal. Okay, we need to try to bring it back to normal. So it will release insulin from the pancreas. When the insulin is going to be released from the pancreas, it is going to have a few really important effects. Okay, one of the major important, what is the release of insulin going to do? The insulin is number one. It's going to go to the liver and it's going to tell the liver, listen, we have like a lot of glucose just lying around in the blood. So let's do one thing. Let's start converting the glucose into glycogen, right? So the insulin is going to tell the liver, why don't we start converting the glucose into glycogen? Glycogen is the storage form of glucose. Where is it found? It's found in the skeletal muscles and in the liver. So it's going to say, why don't we have a lot of glucose lying around, why don't we start converting into glycogen? Then it will go to the cells of the body and it will tell it, listen, we have a lot of glucose in the blood, so why don't you guys absorb it? We call it, we use the term uptake, right? So it's going to tell the cells that please take the glucose inside, please start uptaking the glucose because we have too much glucose inside the body. So please start taking the glucose and please start breaking it down to release energy. So insulin is going to tell it to start in, absorbing more glucose. It's going to tell the cells, please start absorbing more glucose and please start doing more respiration. Please start producing more energy because we have quite a lot of glucose available at the moment. So, what else is it going to do? It is going to also promote the conversion of carbohydrates into fats. So it's going to say, listen, we have a lot of glucose in the body. So let's take some of the glucose and convert it into fat, right? So insulin is going to have all of these effects. It's going to affect the liver of the body. It's going to affect the cells. It's going to affect the conversion of glucose. It's going to say we have a lot of glucose. Please go ahead and start converting glucose into fat. Now, what is the result of all of this? The result of all of this is that glucose level will decrease. Right? Glucose in the blood comes back to normal. Now, the opposite can also happen, right? Let's say a person is fasting. If a person is fasting, then glucose in the blood will decrease. When the glucose in the blood will decrease, what is going to happen? The glucagon is the one. So release of glucagon from pancreas. By releasing the glucagon from the pancreas, what can we do? Glucagon is, first of all, it's going to go to the liver and it's going to tell the opposite. Okay, it's going to say, listen, we don't have enough glucose in the body. So can we please take some glycogen and can we please break it down to release some glucose? Right? So it's going to go and it's going to say, liver, we don't have enough glucose at the moment. So can you please go ahead and convert it back into glucose, right? Then it will also have a few other effects. So it's going to start conversion of fats into glucose. So it will tell the lipids that, listen, we do not have enough glucose at the moment, but we have plenty of fat. So can we please break them down to start releasing, to start making some glucose. Glucagon can also affect proteins. It can also tell proteins that please start breaking down and converting into glucose. The result is that blood glucose rises to normal. Right? So in both cases, you can see the final result is the same. The blood glucose is coming back to normal. Right? In both cases, the blood glucose is coming back to normal. This process where the blood glucose is returning back to normal, we call this the negative feedback mechanism. Okay, this is known as what? This is known as the negative feedback mechanism. What is the negative feedback mechanism? Negative feedback mechanism is when the negative feedback mechanism is basically when there is a stimulus and the body responds by decreasing that stimulus. Okay, we call that negative feedback mechanism. So, what exactly do we mean by a negative feedback, right? If over here the stimulus is that there is an increase in glucose, so the body responds by doing the opposite. The body responds by decreasing it, right? So when we are going to talk about it, how can you actually define it? What you can define it is, right? If the level of something in the body rises, or instead of saying rises, I should say changes. If something, if any substance inside the body changes, that can be glucose, that can be your blood pressure, that can be your heart rate, that can be carbon dioxide level, that can be oxygen level, that can be anything, right? If something in your body is going to change the control system of your body, whatever the control system will be. So in this case, the control system is our glucose and glucagon. They will be activated. And when they're going to be activated, they're going to reduce the that particular it's going to reduce whatever that thing was back to normal. So, for example, if the blood pressure is affected, if the blood pressure is affected, then whatever control system needs to be activated will be activated and blood pressure comes back to normal. If the heart rate is going to increase, then or decrease, whichever one, then whatever systems are responsible for it, those systems will activate and they will bring the heart rate back to normal, right? This is known as negative feedback mechanism because you are doing opposite of whatever is happening. So if something is rising, you reduce it back to normal. If something is decreasing, you increase it back to normal. Okay, this is known as the negative feedback mechanism. And negative feedback mechanism is a very very important mechanism in helping us with what? In helping us with homeostasis. What actually is homeostasis? Homeostasis can be defined as a maintenance of a constant internal environment. right? Maintenance of a constant internal environment is what we call as homeostasis. So, for example, your body temperature, right? Your body temperature stays at 37 degrees centigrade. So, that is because of homeostasis. Your heart rate stays at 70 beats per minute due to homeostasis, right? So, homeostasis is when you're maintaining a constant internal environment. And who helps you in maintaining the constant internal environment? Your negative feedback mechanism. Your negative feedback mechanism is the one that is actually going to help you, right? So, negative feedback mechanism is that if the level of something changes, the body is going to bring it back to normal. That is your negative feedback mechanism. Now, when we are talking about our negative feedback mechanism, so I've already explained to you how the negative feedback mechanism helps in controlling glucose level. Now, the negative feedback mechanism, the homeostasis, is also involved in controlling the body temperature. You also needed to, control, like I gave you the example of blood glucose. This will also apply to blood pressure, it will apply to heart rate, it will apply to your um, lungs, carbon dioxide, oxygen, the level of water, the level of, salts, everything. It is all comes under the heading of homeostasis. Now, in homeostasis, you guys have to know about two responses. One is the regulation of glucose, which I have already discussed with you guys. The second one that you need to know about is body temperature. So let's talk about how the body maintains the body temperature. How does the body make it so that the body temperature stays within 37 degrees centigrade? For this, one of the major aspects is your skin. Skin is one of the major uh, tools that helps in maintaining the body temperature of 37 degrees centigrade. For this, I need to share with you guys a really important diagram regarding the structure of the skin. Just give me 1 minute. Let me share it over here. Right. So this is, you guys can see that this is what the structure is going to look like. We have our nerve endings. Okay. We have muscle. The muscle that we have is your erector muscle. Erector muscle is a muscle that controls the hair on your skin. So you know how when it's really really cold, the hair on your skin can stand up, right? We call it goosebumps. We say we've got goosebumps. The hair on your skin can stand up. So the erector muscle is the one that helps with it. Then you have the blood vessels, you have the sweat glands, you have the fat tissues. All of these have a role in protecting the body against maintaining our internal temperature. Okay, so when we talk about our hair, the hair will stand upright to trap the air, the hair on your body. That's why when you are like really really cold, the hair on your body stands up. This is how your animals, right, they're usually very furry because the hair on their body traps the air and prevents heat loss. Then you have your sweat glands. Your sweat glands can actually, like due to your sweat glands, you can you're going to sweat more, right? So you can either sweat more or you can sweat less. When you sweat, what happens? The When you sweat more, the water will evaporate from your body. So when the sweat evaporates from your body, it takes the heat with it. So it leaves your body cooler. Your so when you talk about your another important feature is fat tissue. Fat is an insulating material. Okay, since fat is an insulating material, so what happens that it is actually going to prevent heat loss from taking place. That's why a lot of the animals that live in really cold climates have very thick layers of fat. Then, when we talk about temperature, the temperature is also controlled by blood vessels. Your blood vessels can dilate, meaning that they can open up. The diameter can increase. Okay, and if the diameter will increase, if the blood vessels will dilate, they will open up. So the heat energy will be lost. Okay, if the blood vessels will constrict, if the blood vessels will narrow, then less blood will flow and less energy will be lost, right? So this is how your body can control your overheating from taking place, or control you from getting too cold. Now when it talks about the vasodilation and vasoconstriction, so over here we have to understand the concept of shunt vessels. What are shunt vessels? shunt vessels Shunt vessels are found in the skin, okay? And they directly, so shunt vessels help in temperature control. How do they help in temperature control? Let me explain that. To understand this, let's imagine that it is really, really hot. Okay. So when it is really, really hot, what is going to happen? That your shunt vessels are going to constrict. Okay. So let's say it is really, really hot. So what is going to happen? The shunt vessels are going to constrict. When the shunt vessels will constrict, and where is all of this happening? This is happening in the skin. So when the shunt vessels will constrict, the blood will travel to the capillaries close to the skin, right? The blood will flow close to the skin. When the blood travels close to skin, the heat will diffuse out of the blood. and the body will cool down. On the other hand, what if it's really, really cold? If it's really cold, we will see the opposite. We will see that the shunt vessel will dilate. Now, when the shunt vessel will dilate, so the blood, instead of passing close to the skin, it will simply go through the shunt vessel from the artery to the vein. When the shunt vessels will dilate, so what is going to happen? The blood will travel through the shunt vessel from the artery to the vein, right? And as a result, less energy or less heat is lost. One second. So there's going to be less heat energy lost because the blood is not going to travel close to the skin. It will simply travel through the shunt vessel from the artery to the vein. So less heat energy diffuses out and the body will stay warmer. So when we talk about our body, how does the body, what mechanisms does the body uses in maintaining the temperature? The mechanism that the body uses in maintaining the temperature include, what if it's too hot? Okay. How does your body prevent you from overheating? Number one mechanism is sweating. Along with sweating, what is going to happen? The hair will lay flat. The hair on your skin, it's going to lay flat, right? It's not going to, the erector muscle will not be functioning. The air, it's not going to be trapping in any heat. It is going to be laying flat. You are going to see vasodilation. The blood vessels close to the skin, vasodilation. When I'm saying vasodilation, I mean of the skin. Okay. So vasodilation will happen to prevent, or not to prevent, to actually allow the heat energy loss to take place. Now, when we talk about our, how do you prevent the body from overcooling? The body will, number one, shivering. Shivering is the rhythmic contraction of your muscles. Okay. So what happens that when your muscles will contract, they will do respiration, and in the process of respiration, heat energy is going to be released. Then we are going to have our um vasoconstriction. The blood vessels will constrict so that less heat is going to be lost from the surface of the skin. Okay, so see, over here we see vasodilation, over here we see vasoconstriction. Then when we are going to talk about it, the hair the hair will stand up and it will trap the air. And obviously we also have our adipose layer. Adipose layer is a fat layer. The adipose layer is also going to help trap the energy in and prevent loss of heat. So this is how your body maintains its internal temperature. And this is all related to homeostasis. What is homeostasis? Maintenance of your internal body environment. That is homeostasis. And it is all related to negative feedback mechanism, which reduces any change, or which if anything changes in the body, the mechanism will bring it back to normal. So this is what happens regarding your homeostasis. Does anybody have any question or any part that is not clear? Hajra, Al Johara, any confusion regarding anything or any part that's not 100% clear?
No.
No. All right. So this is all we had to do regarding the topic of our coordination and response. Okay. So in coordination and response, you guys should know about, actually, sorry, there's one more thing left. In this topic, what you guys have to know, you guys should know about your nervous system. In the nervous system, you guys should know about, the neuron, sensory neuron, motor neuron, the type of neurons, all of that. You guys should know about how the sensory neuron and the motor neuron, how, what are the structures. You should know about how your synapses work. You should know about your reflex arc. You should know about the endocrine system. Your In the last class, I taught you guys about your adrenaline. You guys should know the topic of adrenaline very well. You should know about the topic of your glucose, insulin, glucagon really well. And then you guys should know homeostasis. There's one thing that we have to go over, and that is the differences between nervous system and endocrine system. I'm going to share that with you. 1 second. Right. These are the differences between your nervous system and endocrine system. Okay. Nervous system includes the brain, the spinal cord, the nerves. The endocrine system includes your glands. Nervous system includes electrical impulses, while endocrine system includes hormones. The nervous system uses nerves to conduct the nerve impulses. The endocrine system uses blood to allow the transport of hormones. In the nervous system, the effectors are muscles or glands or whatever. Okay. In the endocrine system, the effectors are the target cells in specific tissues. So for example, if the target cell might be liver, insulin goes to the liver and says, please start converting glucose into glycogen, right? So it's going to a very specific target organ, right? In the nervous system, the effectors are muscles and glands. In the endocrine system, it's a organ. In nervous system, the impulses happen very, very, very quickly, right? I mean, from you feeling something or from you thinking to saying it, it takes no time. Then the endocrine system is much slower, right? It's if your insulin is going to be released, it's going to take 1 to 2 hours to do its job. Nervous system has a very small length of effect, right? I mean, for example, if I'm moving my hand away from something hot, so it's a short response. I will move my hand away and that's it, all done. In the endocrine system, the length of effect is longer, right? The insulin hormone or the adrenaline hormone will stay in my body until the body breaks it down, right? That's why, even though, for example, if you're very nervous and if you're very stressed out, and the adrenaline hormone in your body will be high, right? And you guys will stay stressed out until that hormone is broken down by the body. So these are the differences between nervous system and endocrine system. This is the last thing in this chapter that you guys should know about. So now we are done with the topic of coordination and response. Let me go ahead and share some questions with you guys. If anybody has any confusion or any questions, let me know. Our question says figure 3.1 is a diagram of the junction between two neurons in a healthy person. Figure 3.2 is the diagram of a junction between same two neurons in a person who has Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease is a disease that affects the nervous system. Identify the parts labeled X and Y. What do you think? What first tell me X? What is X?
Aren't X the neurotransmitters?
X is the vesicle. Okay, neurotransmitter is the compound inside it. Okay,
Oh, okay.
vesicle and neurotransmitter is the compound inside it. And okay, good job, Hajra. That's fine. Now, what is Y?
The synaptic gap.
Cleft. Good job. Correct. Now they're saying Parkinson's affects neurons in the brain that are responsible for movement. Use the information in figure 3.1 and figure 3.2. Suggest and explain the effect of Parkinson's disease on a person's movement. What is the major difference you see between the two figures? Like just looking at the diagram, don't give me a detailed answer. Give me just one statement. What is the major difference you see between these two images?
There are less neurotransmitters.
Yes, there is less neurotransmitter in Parkinson's disease than in a healthy person. So you guys just have to explain regarding that. If there is less neurotransmitter in Parkinson's disease, then how will it affect the transmission of nervous impulse? Okay? Then if the nervous impulse is not going to get transmitted properly, then how will it affect the muscles? How will it affect the movement? Right? So you have to suggest and also explain the effect of Parkinson's disease, and this is for 5 marks. So use your theoretical knowledge to try to predict. What do you guys think? If there is less neurotransmitters, what do you guys think? How will that affect the nerve transmission? So talk about the entire process of synapses, right? Don't just say there's less neurotransmitter. You have to explain why less neurotransmitter is bad. So you have to explain the process of synapse. Then after explaining the process of synapse, you have to explain then how will the person's movement be affected? How is the response going to be affected? All right. So please take 2-3 minutes and type out the answer in the chat. Even if you guys can't think of 100% answer, it's okay. Whatever points you guys can think of, it's fine. Right. I got your answer, Haja. Let me go through it. Al Johara, please send me yours as well. Right. Haja, your answer is fine, but tell me this. Tell me, like you don't have time out. Just tell me that if the nerve impulses are not able to transmit through, right, because there are less neurotransmitters, so nerve impulses are not able to transmit properly, so how do you think that will affect the person's movement? Right, Al Johara, your answer is also fine. Okay, Hajar, basically one point that what I was asking you was how will the muscles be affected? So you basically just have to add over here your point that the muscle movement is going to be slower, right? Or the muscles are not going to respond to the nerve impulses quickly. The muscles are going to move slower. The person is going to have difficulty moving. They're going to have uneven walk, right? So that's the problem with Parkinson's, that people with Parkinson's are not able to move properly. Their muscles don't respond. Okay. So they can't walk properly. They can't sit properly. So this is the reason why. Because in Parkinson's, there is there is less neurotransmitters. So the nerve impulses. So the rest of your answer is fine. There is less. Al Johara, your answer is also fine. There are they will neurotransmitters are less, so there will be less neurotransmitters will bind to the receptors. As a result, the nerve impulse is passing through the from one neuron to be the other neuron are going to be lesser. So since the neurons nerve impulses will not reach the muscles, or they will reach the muscles quite less, so what are we going to see? We're basically going to see that the nerve impulses or your muscles are going to respond slower. The person is going to have more difficulty walking. The person's they're going to have difficulty moving their hands, moving their legs, because the muscles are not going to be receiving the nerve impulses, right? So good job both of you, your answers are good. All right, so we're going to go ahead and stop it over here for today. Now in our next class, first we will go over a few questions on the topic of coordination and restraint, and then we'll start our next topic. Okay.